be banned.
What about you, JL? You want more Maiev?
I think she'll sneak in. I think there's always these times in these where it's like, all right, are we willing to deal with a menace of a hero, or are we trying to ban out, you know, the fact that you play something so well because it's so well practiced that we have to take that out of your hands? I think that's always a consideration, especially in the best of threes and especially throughout the tournament, is what's the risk factor, right? Maiev is an incredible risk, but is there something that could be more risky or counters your play style in particular?
Well, the draft is underway. Zealots will have the first ban as they have first pick in the game. Are we going to be seeing any Dahaka from Zealots? We see it pretty often, but they're actually thinking about banning out the hero, Caldor.
I mean, in general with Zealots, I'm curious to see how they adapt now to not only the patch, but also Maiev being added, because with the priority that we saw her take in the previous games, she is going to shake up the early picks and bans that we're seeing for them. And Zealots had a long phase where they played a lot of Hanzo, but with the introduction of Maiev, Hanzo is now in a lot of trouble and has really fallen off. And that takes a huge tool away from Zealots that they used against Fnatic, for example, when they were able to win the series. So they have to adapt right now, and how, that's what we're going to find out now.
Again, I think the fact that Zealots has had so much time to prepare, Tempo Storm does one thing incredibly well. They invade camps early, and one of the ways that they do it a lot is with the Dahaka. You bring the global down, the minute 1 minute hits, you come in. But they also do it with Malthael on a pale horse, which is a popular talent pickup in North America. I don't know if we'll see that, especially now that Maev's been let through. There's the Blaze pickup. Do we get the Maiev, or will we get a Malthael? I mean, we might even get both.
This is Caster's curse right there. I'm like, no, I don't think we're going to see another Maiev. Next minute, here's Maiev. So I do like that, though, by Zealots. They're not phased at all. They had greater, I guess, agenda, wanting to ban out that global Dahaka. If he's left to just continuously push, he could just give you so much more of that experience advantage. But I'm also seeing that the Abathur is also still available.
Yeah, Abathur is another hero that is highly important here, since Zealots were also one of the first teams to play Abathur in HGC. As we said before, usually he's banned out. Now we have Blaze already for the top lane. It's a super safe pick for Zealots to head into Blaze as an early pick. And around bunker, you can make some amazing plays, and Maiev might struggle into that. So this is really where I want to see how Zealots are going to adapt, because they already showed some willingness to adapt here. No ban on Abathur, Maiev not being picked as an early hero. We have Genji banned out against them, but they have to go away from a lot of the tools they used in the past.
So if you're Zealots and there's a big Warden's Cage, there's a hero named Medivh that is popularly played by ADRD, but with Abathur in here, that's probably likely his hero at this point, right?
I think happily is apt. I think it's the only time that I see ADRD smile, whenever he gets a Medivh. He's got a very stern face.
But I mean, what they have right now is already great. We've seen how Maiev was comboed with Tyrael a lot, so that once you have the Warden's Cage in play, you can also rely on Sanctification. Now we have Sanct taken away from them. We have Abathur, so that basically screams you could play around Greymane if you wanted to. Tempo Storm could target it, they could pick it. And it's a really strong start into the draft for Zealots already. That's a fantastic foundation that they have. And whoever they're going to pick as their damage dealer and also support, they're going to have so many shields here. Tyrael, Blaze as another tool to keep the heroes alive with Bunker later on. Then you have Abathur as well. You can play the Global, one of the reasons why they banned out Dahaka. So there's a very, very clean idea of what they want to do with the draft. And so far, I really like it.
I mean, one thing as well, when we were chatting to them, was that Mopsio was saying that the strategy by them is to have fun and try to play standard versus NA and utilize their macro play to try and get the advantage over them. So already I'm not seeing anything too crazy like the mad scientist, ADRD, is just waiting.
Unless they're seeing something, and Malthael is the most second banned hero in North America, and it's because a lot of North American teams play that. Seeing a Leoric pickup, I'm pretty sure that we have not seen a Glaurung Leoric since the early part of Phase 1. That surprises me quite a bit. And I think the reason is they're afraid of the double soak, right? Getting that mid-top, allowing the 4-man of tempo to kind of execute. But that opens the door for Malthael on a pale horse, which is something they're much more known to run.
But that comes back to regional differences. I think at this point, especially when you're heading into your first game, if you are in the shoes of any of these teams, you have to make a choice. Do you try and ban out your opponent, or do you try to ban what you feel would be best for them? So I think that's why we're seeing Leoric banned out, even though Tempo Storm hasn't played it as much as other teams might have.
One game. That's it. I'm surprised that Zealots is going into that ban. I know it's regional, and I agree that sometimes you have to go with what's safe, but if you Tempo Storm, there's no way they run that.
You also kind of doesn't move into Malthael as much. He's fallen off pretty dramatically for us. So I can see the Leoric ban right away.
Yeah, but with Malthael, it's just one of those situations where you say, if you want him, take him.
Yeah.
Europe just doesn't feel that Malthael is that strong of a hero. We've seen Zealots play Malthael. We've seen Trick, for example, at the beginning of 2018 play him a lot. And they did it really well, actually, making sure that they had 2 additional damage dealers. So Malthael was a distraction as well as a threat. But after that, he fell off heavily. So Zealots are just in a spot where they say, hey, if you want him, just take him because we feel we can deal with that easily.
Well, a lot of teams as well, they're putting that less priority on him, especially with that second round of nerfs. A lot of teams are saying he's just not as strong as he used to be. He's now very much a niche pick. And with that latest round as well, meaning that he has to hit heroes to get most of his sustain back, he's just not as dominant as a solo laner anymore. He's not guaranteed to just insta-win the lane.
Greymane comes in, pairing with Ethereal and Abathur.
The more that I see here, look at Tracer. She's going to have such a hard time playing into Tyrael and Abathur already. Now you have Greymane in the mix, and you have Stuka for the additional silence. I would say that this is already insanely scary what we have. And if you play now with a good jet propulsion and you get the stun off, then Stukov has a silence right there. I'm really liking what Zealots are drafting here. They have Abathur, they have him together with Greymane, they have fantastic tools for targets for Symbiote and also for the copy. The Stukov situation works well in their favor. Blaze is a stronghold in Europe, and it's a lot of tools to keep Greymane alive. Reminds me a little bit of what Heroes Hearth was trying to do when they're saying, okay, we want a comp where we have Greymane as the main damage dealer and we're going to protect him at all costs. It's not quite as all into that idea that we've seen from Heroes Hearth, but it's down the same line. And right now I feel Zealots are walking away with a draft that they themselves are very comfortable with.
Yeah, don't forget that the silence can also be difficult against Maiev. She comes in and sometimes she can't trade away from the fight, so you get that time, that window to focus her down and take her away. So Tempo Storm looking for their 5th pick here. What are we thinking, Vandy?
I don't know. I mean, if I'm Tempo Storm now, I'm thinking we've got a lot to address, but here's that Malthael we were talking so much about.
Yep.
Honestly, I was not expecting that.
We now have a testing ground to see if EU's thought process of Malthael, is he too weak here, or if it's strong in the hands of North America who believe that Malthael is pretty powerful. We're going to find out who's right about the scenario as we get ready for the game. What do you think is going to happen here, Jay?
The Stukov, I think, is an excellent pickup. Knowing the style that Tempo likes to play, I absolutely love the Stukov pickup on the side of Zealots. I think the thing that does worry me is that you have Bunker, you have Sanctification.
Yeah.
So Last Rites, is that the value? Is that the more valuable? In Tormented Souls, we know no armor, things like that. It's not as valuable. So where do you go if you're on that Malthael? On a Pale Horse, I think they'll definitely get the early game invades against an Abathur composition. So I look for Tempo to try and push the early aggression.
Okay, it's time for predictions here. Jay, you're first. Who wins this match?
Do I even have to say?
Zealots?
Okay. Tempo Storm. I mean, I think that this map favors their playstyle. I think their draft favors their playstyle. The Stukov pick gives me some hesitancy, but I feel like Tempo Storm, they got what they want. We're going to see if EU can counter it.
Vandy.
I'm sort of torn in between, but I actually do like Zealots. I feel like Stukov is just too good to overlook in this situation, especially on Towers of Doom, where he can be very, very strong at locking out and zoning away from the shrine, so I'm going to go with Zealots.
Caldor.
I agree with Jayho that they have walked away with the draft that they want, Tempo Storm, but I think the same is also true from Zealots. And I'm going with the European team.
Yeah, I think for me as well, I'm looking at Stukov to see how strong he'll be here as he drops in the silence against a Maiev. And will it be enough to punish her, or Maiev reign supreme? But I think I'm going to go ahead and stick with Zealots here, vote for an EU. So it's going to be 3-1 over here, Jay. How you feeling about those odds?
Pretty good. I've seen a Stukov play against the style of Tempo Storm. I could go into it, but I'd rather see what's happening.
Ooh.
Well, let's go ahead and head in with the dankest duo in esports. It's going to be Dreadweed casting the match.
Thank you very much, Trixler. Yes, it is indeed back, the Dreadweed. How you doing, Dread?
I am doing great. I'm excited to be on the mic. You know, the analysis desk is neat, but it is not nearly as exciting to get the action in the game. And we have a lot of action here. It is Tempo Storm, #1 seed in North America versus Zealots. In the blue, we're going to have Psalm on Maiev. We have June on Malfurion, Fan playing the Tracer. We have Caterpillar on Arthas, and rounding it out, Malthael played by Glora.
And in the red, Zealots with Zarmany playing Blaze, ADRD on his Abathur, Mopsio playing Tyrael, Chris on Greymane, and Shad playing Stukov. You know, Dread, we were talking about it. Zealots, throughout Part 1, have put a lot of faith into Chris, and they're continuing to do that here as we have a pause.
They are continuing to do that here with this composition, having Chris as essentially the solo DPS to a certain extent. I mean, Abathur, he does do a lot of damage, maybe more so than the average audience member maybe would assume so. But Greymane is for sure the go-to here for this team fight, and that's a lot of pressure onto Chris. But when looking throughout all of Europe and HGC, he's really been able to show up whenever the team needs on more than just, you know, the Hanzo that he made his name in.
Yeah, he tops the charts in damage done per game. And granted, Zealots do tend to have a longer game time overall, and that will influence that. But it still does not take away from the incredible plays that Chris has been making throughout Part 1. He is a big part of why they were able to get that win over Team Dignitas. And a lot of that came down to his Hanzo, but his Greymane is also fantastic.
Yeah, you talked about the average length of games here for Zealots. They generally are a team that it seems like draft and playstyle very much are focused around their level 20s and make sure they get to that point. Still going to be the case here with this composition. Having that Abathur, it generally is going to be playing slow till 10s, and in the later stages, it is very, very difficult to be able to deal with. And we've already seen even, you know, North America willing to pick up some Abathur for themselves here and having pretty good success.
Yeah, Zealots want to get their heroic abilities because it will give them a lot of survivability versus the very aggressive composition that Tempo Storm is known to like to run. And as Jayha was talking about, Tempo Storm are going to get aggressive from the start. They have Tracer. They're going to want to be getting pulse bomb kills right away. They have Maiev. They're looking to get kills that'll only be amplified once you get things like Twilight Dream and her Warden's Cage, which is likely to be the case for heroic ability. They also are known to go for camp invades and try to focus on making sure they get the sappers. On a Pale Horse was the pickup for Maltheo. We'll see if Glowering wants to come down, as Zealots did a great job of pushing that lane, trying to keep him there.
Yeah, they ended up getting the Blaze to kind of feign a rotation if it's going to be necessary, but Tempo not showing too much interest into the camp itself. They're going to be backing it out and playing it a bit slower. But, you know, overall here, the laning situation for Tempo Storm, Saul's got to use the Vault there, but I don't think there's enough damage here. Maiev should be able to make it out. There's going to be a hat, and the Shadow follow-up's enough to be able to make it out here. Maiev lives.
Yeah, that was an early Vault from the Maiev, but having the ability to teleport out to the Spirit in time gives her that escapability. Maev's a difficult one to lock down and try to kill thanks to that Vault, but even still keeping the pressure on is nice for Zealots in this early game.
What I was trying to bring up before that bit of a skirmish up on mid was about kind of that slower play that I was talking about at Zealots. On the other side of the table, Tempo plays very, very well when they can predict the transitions of their opponents. Generally speaking, you know, with that very common 1-4, that if you play right into their hand, they are by far the best in North America at capitalizing. And with this Abathur slower playstyle here from Zealots, it really kind of just raises the question is, with the predictability and the dominance that Tempo will have in the earlier stages, can they get enough that it is not possible for Zealots to come back? And normally we say that when we see any Abathur comp, but I can't help but feel like this is a great highlight of both the strengths and weaknesses of both teams, and if it's really enough to overcome this, you know, regional strength and differences.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see both teams draft the way that they did in this series, or in this game 1 of the series, because it does feel like it's Tempo Storm's meta, and to some extent North America, but Tempo Storm, even within North America, has their own meta, and then Zealots and how they like to play, and just a full-on clash of that, and see who is more victorious in this first game. Now, Maiev gets a big power spike and having that blade dance, that goes really well later on with the armored assault at 16, but being able to do that physical damage, Sam, as the Maiev, under fire, use the Vault. Cattle now there too. Great silence from Shad, though.
Great territorial zone is enough to be able to push out Tempo Storm. We do see the Spirit being laid out here, but Tempo Storm's going to have to go back and get the tap. We both already see Maltheo staying up towards top. Blaze looking to get the side soak into those two lanes. A bit questionable considering the fact that, keep in mind, there is an Abathur on Zealot's composition, so they're very much showing they have zero interest on this, and that's when Tempo gets aggressive.
Yeah, Tempo Storm still willing to make the fight, just making sure that they keep Maltheo as the dual soak. Cattle starting the channel.
The flank.
Fan has a pulse bomb too. Here comes the flank from Zarmany. Sam in danger as Mopsio closing in on him. Gets the Vault ahead of the jet propulsion. Beautifully done by Sam as Tempo starts to turn.
Pulse bomb goes down onto Mopsio. He's going to get tethered right on back here, and that is going to be first blood over to North America, but they are not done. Tyrael passive explodes. There's the jet propulsion locking onto 2 Chad. Go ahead and lay down that lurking arm, but Tempo keep all 5 up.
They just barely do that, and they'll also get the channel on that altar, but don't expect things to go quite like that once Zealots gets the second Greymane in the fight. That was a huge Eldruin era Archangel's Wrath explosion from Zealots to be able to get that. They're bringing the fight still to Tempo Storm even before they get that 10 power spike.
And the fact that they're able to trade even with a slower composition is a pretty good sign here for Zealots. That jet propulsion and flank from Zarmany, it was brilliantly done, but at the same time, you know, it was pretty easy to tell that's when the stun is going to be coming out. So maybe a bit more creative initiations are going to be necessary. But generally speaking, I feel like the fact that Zealots just didn't get a lopsided dominated into that skirmish is a pretty good sign for them here in this game.
But keeping Maltheo in the top of Dual Soak, that top has been pushed. There's Jet Propulsion as Icebound Fortitude was used from Caterpillar. The silence after that. Caterpillar staying alive as Chris wants to chase down. Tether pulls in. Mopsio low. Som teleports, blinking in. They get the kill once again, taking out Tyrael.
Tyrael passive going to explode there on the Som and June, but it's not enough damage. Now Glaring looking to join into the fight. Fan drops the pulse bomb on his Harmony, but the shielding is going to be enough to keep him alive. So another trade here where Tempo Storm pulls ahead and getting these kills, and now they're eking ahead here in experience, and that is really going to be the thing that if they're successful against Zealots that they're going to be relying on. Abathur needs to be crippled in experience and talent tiers before they hit the later stages.
Yeah, I think it's very awesome to see how patient Tempo Storm has been in bringing down Maltheo, because although it's a common tactic and they have on a Pale Horse to enable that, versus the Abathur, they're making sure that it counts. They bring him down, they get the kill, they get the root. Is a Tether holding in as they pull back Mopsio. Teleports back on over, has the Abathur out. There's no way he can get through all the members of Tempo Storm here as they are surrounding him.
But if he explodes with his passive into this choke, it might be a problem. Kato realizes that. He goes out and he just barely survives. He's going to say calculated, and Tempo Storm is going to go ahead and pick up 4 more shots.
Yeah, the vault was great there from Som 2, showing that he understands the timing of this hero. Man, when we were talking to Som earlier on, right when Maiev was released, he said his favorite hero by far was Maiev. And though she has been brought down to mortal levels a few times with a few different nerfs, he's still showing a lot of prowess with that hero and how well it fits into Tempo Storm's melee-heavy style of play.
Not only theirs, it just feels like it's catering to North America in general.
Yes.
We very much are picking up this hero. And I mean, with the success, we've already had, you know, kind of revolutionary success here with the last series that we had at the Western Clash, that this is maybe Maiev is here to stay for a while at the Western Clash. The stun and silence is going to be there, but not enough to catch a pick onto Cattle. And Tempo's going to back out and match the Sappers here on bottom.
Yeah, we'll see if a virulent reaction is the pickup for Stukov, because the way that he was playing that out would have equaled out a root on Caterpillar. And if that's the case, then might have been more time to come in, have the extra CC to lock down along with the Blaze. Maybe even a Holy Ground at 13, though it does seem like Law and Order is more of the favorite to have the shields up more often, the extra smite damage from that. But now heroic abilities are here. We have a last rites pickup for the Maltheo.
It's going to be a lot of damage to be able to deal with. Maltheo, though, struggling here up towards top. Good rotation here from Tempo Storm to make sure that they're here with the squad. And Zealots, with their heroics, they end up committing to a bit of the standard here. Depending on what region you're from, you know, Stukov has multiple options, but they're going to go with that massive shove there at level 10.
Yeah, that's really interesting to see, especially because Tempo Storm is so heavily focused on a lot of dive. We'll see who that's being used for. Do you have anybody in mind that you think that might be as a usage for?
I mean, I think ideally it's one of those situations where it'd be neat to put out the damage dealers, right? Like, Arthas is a target I'd like to get off my backline, but at the same time, just anybody far away from this teamfight is going to be a problem. Even if you burn all 3 blinks on Tracer, you're going to stay worth in that trade. Arthas picks up bottom shrine. Shad with this channel, going to get interrupted there by Glau.
Yeah, perfect Shroud from Glau to get the interrupt there as the Zealots are trying to hang on. Now that they have 10, wanting to get into the fight. 3-man Howling Blast from Caterpillar does a number to root people down as Zealots are ready to charge in and get aggressive at the bunker.
And they actually get the interrupt with that silence. Shad stops the Twilight Dream. There's no response from Tempo, and they end up losing June. Now Cattle on full retreat. Mopsio drops the Sanctification here, and those Zealots end up getting the first kill. By no means are they ahead here. 3-man Howling Blast, and Tempo Storms turn it around.
The pull, 2 more kills, 3 kills in the blink of an eye. Som and Caterpillar chasing down Shad now as they get the root. They get the kill. They'll take him down, and ADRD's clone is the only thing left here at this fight, as he was hoping to trade out on a Som kill. Even that did not happen. Tempo Storm with the quad kill.
That was ridiculous there. Zealots, they had such good decision-making at the opening of that fight, and getting the pick, making sure that they get the silence there. Shout out to Shad.
Yes.
Making sure that lurking arm did not get that turnaround here. And then, though, we saw ADRD be very, very patient with the use of the timing of his heroic and the initiation, and then committing through that clump, another 3-man Howling Blast from Cattle, and then Tempo Storm ends up being the ones coming out on top. This is getting scary. This is at the point where Tempo Storm is kind of rounding out that did they get enough into the earlier stages, and now with the 13 talents here and a full level and a half advantage, if they keep forcing these, I think that Zealots might have a tough time.
It's starting to feel like that. The double silence trying to make sure that Zealots can still secure their sapper camp, and they do. Last massive shove pushed Maiev all the way far back. I thought for sure Tempo Storm was just gonna have to be out of that fight. But coming back in, having the last rights to get the kill, the sanctification too, making sure that they could still fight after that, it was really well done by Tempo Storm just to back off, wait that out, and then re-engage. Tempo Storm playing well, but Zealots, this is the point when they start to try to get back in the game. It's just whether or not they've lost too much in the process.
Malthael still sticking towards that side lane and dealing with the Blaze Abathur split pressure, while the rest of the members of Tempo Storm are looking to draw a bit of aggro down below. 30 seconds out. It's only going to be 2 altars here. Luckily for Zealots, though, they will be able to round this 13 talent here. Generally speaking, this is where I would expect Zealots to be over-aggressive, be looking to zone off temporarily, somebody get a back channel and then abuse that clone all in over Tempo Storm's altar. But we'll see who's going to be coming out on top.
Altars activating in 10 seconds. Tempo Storm with that level lead, but Zealots there have 13 and can try to get into the fight. Caterpillar zoning away. As Zealots willing to dive in, going after Cattle, blow him up, thanks to the silence, thanks to the follow-up from that. This is the moment we talked about Zealots needing to get back in the game. They're trying to do just that.
Psalm still has the vault available. Mopsy is going to go ahead and start the channel.
Greymane.
He's just able to,
the clone.
yeah, the clone there, able to at least draw the aggro and keep the members of Tempo Storm not even question if they have an opportunity there. Little clever use there of ADRD and his clone. Zarmi's gonna back out and pick up a secondary channel, and we find ourselves where the HP on the core is a little bit closer to balance. 28 remain here for Tempo Storm, and 20 of that onto Zealots. The biggest thing here, though, is that Zealots was able to close that gap a smidge in experience, that disadvantage between the level and a half, and they're gonna now be able to turn the map back into their color, right? Paint it red, and really suddenly be the ones dictating the rotations of Tempo rather than the inverse like we've seen for the early game.
Yeah, they have gotten a moment of respite from Tempo Storm, but it's not there just yet because Tempo Storm, and losing that 1 kill, immediately disengaged. Didn't give anything else to Zealots. They are willing to say, okay, you've won this one, but we're still ahead in the core health. We're still ahead in experience. And once we get to 16, we can start dictating the rotations again. These mines, though, they're gonna chunk through Fan's health bar. But with the Malfury in there, a single regrowth, maybe a Moonfire will help heal that right back on out.
Generally speaking here, even though it was kind of an awkward timing of the experience for the 16 hit for Tempo Storm, considering, I feel like Zealots maybe clumped up a smidge too much with this rotation in that window here. This experience gap is not closed, considering you have a double soaker like Abathur on your side of the battlefield. And yes, they did get the mercs out, but that was about it, really, that kind of happened over that window. And that's something that really, you know, Zealots, I don't think they have many more kind of forgiving moments like that in this game.
Yeah, it seemed fearful almost that Tempo Storm would be able to get the double Sapper camp with 16 and then take out bot. So what it does is not give 16 for this crucial 5th altar phase. But what it does do is ensure that Tempo Storm don't have the 5th altar phase and 5 bell towers. We'll see how that works out for them as we start to look at the channels for these.
I mean, in an ideal world, Zealots can only get their own, stall out 1 long enough to hit 16 and then initiate. Anything beyond that seems a bit, you know, kind of overzealous here from them. 7 seconds posturing for Tempo Storm. They are going to, without a doubt, secure the bottom altar. So much so that Zealots even looking to put pressure towards that top fort, but still 16 yet to be achieved. ADRD gonna go ahead and pick up the top right. Will the 16 be hit in this window?
Oh, Tracer sees ADRD. The chase is on from Fan, but elsewhere in the map, the fight is breaking out. Not quite 16 yet, are Zealots, but they're willing to take the fight. Sanctification buys some time. Bunker used at the same time. Cattle running away from that. As long as they don't lose Glowering here, they should be able to re-engage. Psalm goes back in, but Malthael falls.
Malthael ends up going down there. Nice use of the vault there. Zarmany trying to track down onto Cattle. They're able to disengage for a couple of seconds here, but that is a 1-for-1 now after getting that.
Yeah, Fan finds himself a tasty slug. He gets that kill. No Abathur here, as he went into the clone hoping that he could stay alive from Fan, but Fan patiently waiting to get that kill. Now the re-engage happens. Psalm applies the tether, pulling Zarmany away, hoping that June can get the altar picked up. Mopsio dives deep for this.
He's gonna be able to stay alive for now. Friends getting into the bunker, everybody grouping up there. Fan is gonna have to go ahead and tap here. It looks like Tempo Storm, though, as Malthael's just about to come up in 5 more seconds, they should be able to zone back off this and get a full 5 versus 5. And realistically, they have much shorter CDR, or cooldowns, excuse me, when it comes to their heroics. And so that is going to force Zealots outward. But honestly, Zealots, they held up for how risky of a situation that was. That was very impressive decision-making to get that stall and get that realistic 16.
Yeah, it was very smart to just stay up toward the top because it allowed them to stay together. This is an amoeba-style composition. They want to be together if they possibly can. So sticking together, the problem was that ADRD wanted to get the channel. Fan recognized that. Such a mobile hero getting that kill there, evened up the kills. But Zealots, they have the time. They need to get aggressive. They have to keep being aggressive at this point because they're so far behind.
There is no sanctification available. ADRD goes ahead and he's going to use the clone here. It is in position to at least get a lot of value down in the sieging capabilities up on bottom, but that's something that Tempo Storm might want to capitalize on. The minute this goes down, look to initiate past ADRD and friends with this clone in this bottom lane.
Yeah, there goes the clone, just about falling. Received another heal. Howling Blast gets a couple. Here comes the Spirit. There's the pull. Do we see the cage now?
Pulse Bomb's going to be negated there by the great use of the bunker. Chris is in a bad spot.
Howling Blast.
It's going to lock him down. Twilight Dream. The cage pulls them back in, and Tempo Storm wipes the floor with Zealots.
And I just heard Glorong pop off, not only in the game, but on stage 2. He was very happy with how that play went down. Tempo Storm, one of the loudest teams in North America, bringing the fight to Zealots, getting hyped, and looking to take this boss to give him another 4 shots, getting close to end the game.
So now, looking at the timing of this altar, which will end the game for Tempo Storm, there is only about 1 second difference between the two, a 10-second travel time to that bottom altar. That is up to ADRD. A slug 1 versus 5 to get this delay, Gilly. Can't help but feel like this is just it. That is going to be all she wrote here for Zealots.
That Howling Blast enabled so well. Then the Twilight Dream, the cage pulling everyone back in. The tether Psalm popping off on Ismaev. The channel starts. ADRD comes in, but a lone slug versus the world will delay momentarily. But with the channel now down, the ADRD now down, June will get this channel. And in the game, Tempo Storm winning game 1 versus Zealots.
Absolutely clean play coming out from Tempo Storm throughout that game. I mean,